Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ist jetzt schon. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Danke. Okay, we will have a very short, informal Srimad Bhagavad-gītā lecture. And we are reading today from chapter 18, entitled Test, Echo, Krish, entitled The Renunciation, the Perfection of Renunciation. Yes. Verse number 65. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuro mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport and translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of Him and act for Him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. Yes, you know everything. Like Satyananda Maharaj says, you know everything. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of where will be even the Pujari is saying this, so where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. Okay, let's get serious. Haribol. Maybe somebody else would like to read. Hare Krishna. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. he's still laughing, yeah? Usually pujaris are more serious, but our Sanjay is special. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become... I'm sorry, somebody else has to read.
Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form, with 2 hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multiforms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hendrik. I always had this problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but since I was a child, if I started laughing and somebody else is also laughing, that's it, just... Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Manmana Bhavat Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, Mam Evaishyasi Satyam Te, Pratijani Preyosi Me. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear friends, dear Brian, Thakur, Hendrik, and Sundar Shyam, Prabhu, and the family who left because they thought, what kind of joking lecture is this? And whoever is online watching us, today we have reached the 65th verse of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, meaning we have few verses and we will finish. And after we finish Bhagavad-gītā, what do? I don't know. We start again, of course. So this verse is repeating 2 times in the Bhagavad-gītā, and it's a very important principle, always stressed, always remember Krishna, 24 hours think of Krishna, and it is theoretically very easy, we all know it, but how often do we think of Krishna really? How often do we have this remembrance that yes, Krishna is there, he is my most dear friend, my most well-wisher. And how often are we having this intimate inner conversation with him? This constant prayer, which is pure devotee should be in. He is always talking with Krishna. He is always getting direction from the super soul. So what is stopping us from remembering Krishna? And what is helping us to remember Krishna? In this context, 2 verses I would like to share with you this evening. One is a very famous verse from Padma Purana, which is being recited in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, 22nd chapter, verse number 113, in case somebody is interested to save it. And it is said, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya Na Jatoshit. Sarve vidhi nishudasyor itayor eva kinkaraham. Itayor eva kinkaraha. These two principles are most important. What are they? Smartavya satatam Vishnur. Smartavya means to remember Vishnu. Vismartavya na jatushit, and never to forget him. So, Sarve vidhi nishudasyor. Vidhi and nishuddha are the rules and regulations. And it is said the purpose, the purport or the purpose of all the rules and regulations is to remember Krishna and never forget him. So often we get diverted by all these rules and regulations, and in case you have noticed, we have loads of them, loads of rules and regulations, and sometimes we may follow them without actually knowing why, thinking that they are the end by themselves, not understanding that those are the means that should serve the principle of always remembering Krishna and never forget him. So the rules and regulations is one thing that would definitely help us to be in this purity, in this sattva gun, to remember Krishna. So let us reflect on what are the things that actually would help us remember Krishna, and what are the things that would help us, would not help us, or would be like an obstacle to remember him. Somebody would like to share something? Association helps us remember or forget? Help us remember. Depends. Depends what kind of association, yes. Thakur? Reading helps us remember Krishna while reading and after reading, right? Because we get this input and... Okay? Yes, we have a hand raised, sorry. Learning verses. Brian speaking out of experience. Hendrik.
Chanting the Hare Krishna mantra while I have some disturbing thoughts.
Really? I mean, for me, when I start chanting, I forget Krishna. It's like whenever I start chanting, okay, that's it. It's most difficult to remember. Just joking.
I think Shravanam also, the more we hear,
Yes.
we do the Kirtanam, that is we meditate.
Yes. Yes, our Kirtanam is definitely dependent on our Shravanam. Yeah, it starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then Vishnu Smaranam. So to remember Vishnu it's the 9 devotional processes. It is said Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, and so on. And the first 3 is Shravanam. Shravanam means ears or hearing. Kirtanam means to glorify or to chant. Vishnu Smaranam, Vishnu, and Smaranam is to remember. Okay, so things that from my reading or my studies or the studies that our spiritual master gave us that actually help us remember Krishna are 2 points I wrote down. And the first one Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the Bhagavad-gītā, 3rd chapter. The purport is for the verse 3:11. So, I don't know. So, in the purport of the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, Karma Yoga, Prabhupada is saying the following. By performance of yagyas, all activities become purified, as stated in the Vedas. Okay, and then he is quoting Ayurveda Shastra, no, Chandogya Upanishad. Ahara Shuddhau, Sattva Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhau, Dhruva Smriti. Smriti Labhe Sarva Granthinam Vipra Moksha. By performance of yagya, one's eatables become sanctified. By eating sanctified food, one's very existence becomes purified. By purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. Yeah, Smriti, Dhruva Smriti. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation, Vipra Moksha. And all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of the present day. So, Ahara Shuddha. Ahara means anything that goes inside our senses, yeah, what we digest, what we eat. So in this context, Ahara means food. And Ahara Shuddhau, pure food, Sattva Shuddhi. It gives pure consciousness. Sattva Shuddhau, pure consciousness, leads to Dhruva Smriti. Dhruva means something which is fixed, firm, or heavy. And Dhruva Smriti, it gives us clear. Smriti means remembrance or memory. So this when the food is pure, the consciousness is pure. The mind becomes clear, pure. And when the mind is pure, the memory becomes steady, becomes fixed. Sattva Shuddhau Dhruva Smriti. Smriti Labhe, and by this remembrance, by this pure consciousness, Sarva Granthinam. Sarva means all, Granthinam, the bondage, Vipramoksha, becomes demolished or liberated. Moksha means liberation. So actually when we want to break off the bondage of karma, because this is the name of the previous of that chapter, and breaking the bondage of karma is happening through, first of all, purifying our consciousness. And how does it start? Ahara Shuddha. So the purity of food is one thing that will ultimately help us remember Krishna. Okay? Everybody agrees? Fine. And another point that helps us remember Krishna, which Brian Prabhu mentioned, is memorizing verses. Why is memorizing verses? It's actually about not only memorizing, it's about studying. It's about the realization we get that helps us remember Krishna. And a very important verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said, Siddhanta boli yochete na kara alas. Eha hoite, viel Spaß, Thakur. Thank you for deinen Dienst. Thakur has still service. He has been kitchen helper and now going to clean and taking garland. Just in case the live stream is curious to know what's happening in the daily Simachalam life. What are these guys doing? So, Nakara alas, don't be lazy. Eha hoite Krishna lage sudridha manas. Yeah, here we hear the word again, sudridha. So, Siddhanta means philosophy. In scripture, the study of philosophy, the study of knowledge, boliya chete, when one is considering in his consciousness, in his mind, the Siddhanta, without being lazy, yeah? Because often we are lazy to study, let's be honest. And Eha hoite Krishna lage. Krishna lage means to fix Krishna. Sudridha manas. One fix Krishna very firmly in his mind. So another thing that helps us remember Krishna is studying of the Siddhanta, studying of the philosophy. And of course, often we say, yes, bhakti is most important. Just I'll finish the sentence and the lecture is finished, you can ask. We almost always say bhakti is more important. Why should we engage too much with studying, with memorizing verses, with studying philosophy? We are not dry speculators. We are not jnanis, we are bhaktas. Most important is love. True. But how are we supposed to come to this love? If we love someone, we remember him anyway, or her, always, we think of them. So to think of Krishna, we need to have this pure consciousness. And pure consciousness depends on the purity of input we have. Like we said, purity of ahara, the food, and the purity of shravanam, the purity of what we hear and what we see and what we speak of. Yeah, like Mahatma Prabhu and my Guru Maharaj always, they quote this from the science of computer. Garbage in, garbage out. So, we cannot expect to put garbage in our minds through our phones or mundane topics or whatever, and then we expect that we will talk about Krishna and we will remember Krishna. No. It's not an easy thing, it's not a cheap thing. And here Krishna in this verse is saying, Prabhupada is saying at the beginning of the purport, the most confidential part of knowledge is to become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him. So it is not something easy, it's not something cheap. It is something only attainable by mercy and great endeavor. And this endeavor from our part can be done again by this point we mentioned. And the things that definitely the second part of the lecture, let's say, or of these points is the obstacles. What are the obstacles for remembering Krishna? And the main thing comes to my mind is sins and aparadas. So as long as we commit offenses, then our consciousness is like scattered, yeah? It's never fixed. And it is most difficult to think of Krishna. So by avoiding aparadas, by avoiding these sins and aparadas are actually two different things. And I'm not going to explain so much the difference. We will first open place for questions. But those two things, committing sins and aparadas, offending others, offending the Vaishnavas, offending the holy name, offending Bhagavan, yeah, Bhakti, Bhaktas and Bhagavan. So those things definitely are the greatest obstacles for having pure consciousness. So those are my thoughts on this verse. Thank you for your attention. Anybody would like to share something? Hendrik, you wanted to say something? No? You raised your hand before, or? We have a mic.
I guess I forgot that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, like as you mentioned that.
Give him the mic.
Fine, yeah,
And the live stream, we have how many? Thousands of followers. You don't know how many are watching now, right?
So, like as you mentioned, Hare Krishna, yeah. So that prasadam is the one which will make our consciousness. But I still have the tendency of sense gratification. So even if I am having prasadam, I am inclined towards what's the taste of and what's the menu in the prasadam. Though I am taking the prasadam, but still I have the tendency of this enjoyment, like at least tongue enjoyment I can say. So will that help me to purify my consciousness, or where will I go?
You know, of course here in this context, one of the main points Prabhupada is saying that in the verse before actually, I mean not about today's verse, but where I quoted this Ahara Shuddha Sattva Shuddhi and so on. One verse before, Prabhupada is talking about yagya and the purity of offering, the importance of offering food, and that everything we eat, we should be prasad. And if we eat only prasad, then naturally we will purify our consciousness. But actually, when my spiritual master is giving a certain seminar about what was it? I mean, it's scientific basics of Krishna consciousness, and this part is about awareness and how do we actually become conscious and aware. And he's mentioning this point that it's actually not about only eating prasad, because even some kinds of prasad can be unhealthy for our certain position, constitutional nature, our body, our mind, and so on. So what is it? What is food for someone may be poison for someone else. So, you know, like I see you like to eat whatever, pickles, eggplants, your cultural food, which is completely natural for you. If I eat it, you know, I have hours of indigestion afterwards and may get health problems. And the idea is when we are not healthy, then we cannot think of Krishna. That's the main thing, because the purity of our mind is highly dependent not only on eating spiritualized food, because more or less any food can be spiritualized. Yeah, and some devotees have high faith in the mercy of Krishna that they buy things from the supermarket and offer it to Krishna, and they say this is prasad, and probably it is. You know, I'm not going to discuss this topic, just in case. But it's not about that. It's not about is it like how pure is the food only, but how healthy is the food for you. And this is the point that needs to be taken into consideration. We be very conscious about what we are eating, and we be very conscious about this thing that actually I am putting into my system will ultimately nourish my body and nourish my mind. Yeah, because food is supposed to nourish the mind. food is transformed into three forms. One is, I don't know why I started this. I don't even remember two of them. No, one is going to the blood. Part of the food, the most, okay, sorry, let's start like this. The grossest part of food, what we eat, the most gross part is going out of as poop, yeah, as stool. And the less subtle part is nourishing the muscles and the tissues, and the more subtle and the most subtle part of food is nourishing our brain tissues, our brain, yeah. So that's why it's important to know what we eat. And liquids, mainly water, and water is a very important factor that affects our consciousness, because our body is made out of water mainly. So the purity of water is very important. We are very lucky here because we have really pure groundwater. It's one of the best groundwaters in Germany. Yeah, and the purity of water, that the water has this prana, has this life energy. The liquids or the water we put into our body transforms into three forms also. The most gross part goes as urine, and the less gross part, or the little more subtle part, goes into the blood, nourishes our blood, and the most subtle part of the water or of the liquids, Jai Sankirtan devotees are back, the most subtle part of the liquids or the water we take goes to as prana. Yeah. So water transforms into prana, nourishes the blood and or urine. And the food nourishes the mind, nourishes the muscles and the bones and the tissues, or goes as stool. So that's why Ahara Shuddha, Sattva Shuddhi, the purity of what we put in our mind, what we put in our mouth, what we put into our eyes, Ahara again is not only what we eat, is anything that we perceive through our senses, what we hear, what we see, what we eat, what we smell, the purity of those elements that we are putting into our system through our senses, these sense objects, those affect our consciousness and play an important factor of remembering Krishna. And when this remembrance is there, Vipra Mokshau, Sarva Granthitam Vipra Mokshau, then we become liberated from all kind of bondage. I don't know if I answered your question. Hendrik, say something. Something. Please, no. Be careful. These things cost hundreds of euros, really. I mean, you don't have to, but if you have shares thought or something, you're welcome. Anything online, Brian? No? Okay. Anything comes to your mind?
This
Ahara. I think it's on. It was on, but if you speak...
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Is it on? Okay.
Is it on?
Ahara.
Ahara, yeah.
Ahara is putting inside.
Yeah. It's mainly referred to as food, yeah.
But when I eat prasadam, there is this eating. I will eat this, putting it inside, but referring to the question of Sundarshan Prabhu, the consciousness while I'm eating, I mean, there is high consciousness while cooking, there is this offering, it's prasadam, and while I'm eating, do I put in the consciousness by being conscious of it?
Yes. Yeah. So three things. These subtle points you mentioned. The purity of the prasad is also dependent on. I mean, purity of prasad. Prasad is pure. This is the main thing we need to say. So, but the purity of food is mainly dependent on three things: on the consciousness of the cook, the consciousness of those who serve it, and the consciousness of whom he eats it. Who eats? The one who eats, the one who serves it, and the one who cooks it. I don't know what mostly. Mostly probably the one who eats.
I guess I'm just relaxing on the fact that the one who serves and the one who cooked had a high consciousness, and I just eat. And this is the fine difference I want to know here is, by my consciousness, do I let the good consciousness inside, or
Yes.
by having by being conscious while eating?
Yes.
I just
Yeah, by
Yes,
your
my own
by your good consciousness, by honoring the prasad attentively, you allow the mercy to. Prasad means mercy, yeah, and by this, by doing it as a service, actually, by doing this as a service, I'm not enjoying prasad. Actually, I'm not allowing, not being served by prasad. I am serving prasad. By this, sorry, by this mentality, we kind of unlock or access the mercy, the spiritual mercy, which is there in the prasad, regardless of who cooked it or who served it. Nobody can affect the purity. Nobody can touch the spiritual effect of the prasad. Like the Maha Mantra, like the holy name is pure, but whoever chants it, it is the holy name remains pure. But then comes the purity of consciousness. And our purity of consciousness allows us to how much do we get out of it. Yeah? And the same thing for taking prasad. Our level of consciousness, if we eat, and faith means, consciousness means faith. If we eat it with high faith that this is Krishna's prasad, this is the Lord's mercy, and I am very lucky to take it because the Lord ate before me by looking at it and has spiritualized it. And there is absolutely no karma in there. There is absolutely no matter in there. It's completely, purely spiritual. Then by this consciousness, by this faith that this is pure Krishna Prasad, we get this purity out of it. We get purified by it. And who cooked it, who served it, I don't care. It's none of my business, actually. As long as it was offered to the Lord, then it's pure. And then comes my role. How do I honor it? Yeah.
Is there a picture or a sentence which it's actually, it feels to me like something I do while eating, because there are things I do. I have usual thoughts, I have discussion, or I'm just looking around, and can I remember my most favorite picture of Krishna, or is it this repeating what you just
Well,
said?
we have to understand that the prasad is not different from Krishna. So you can remember a picture of Krishna. You can, like Prabhupada here is saying in the purport, that one should think of Krishna in his form as a cowherd with a flute. Yeah. So, and you can eat and chant Hare Krishna. Why not? You can think of Krishna in this form. Why not? But the principle is, even if you think only of this, what you're eating, you look, oh, this is pakora, and this is yogurt, and I put the pakora in the chutney, or in the yogurt, or in the sauce, and I eat it so attentively, and I'm like, wow, this is so tasty. You know, nothing. We think this is not spiritual. There's not much spirituality in there, but because it's not different of Krishna, then we are remembering Krishna in this sense. You see?
So there seem to be many ways to honor Krishna or remember Krishna. What is not? What is the wrong way of eating prasadam?
A wrong way of eating prasada is not being grateful for it, not being acknowledging that it's prasada, not being attentive while eating it quickly, not chewing enough, not thinking, talking, and not paying attention to what we are putting in our mouth. This is definitely inattentiveness toward Krishna in his form of prasad. So Prabhupada used to eat while sitting in front of alone. He was eating alone, sitting in front of a window or in front of a wall. But he was sitting with prasad. He was sitting with the prasad and honoring it very attentively. He didn't sit with the devotees and talk and laugh and eat, which is not wrong. but eating prasad is a meditation. It is a meditation, and the perfection is even when you are eating with the devotees, which is a very nice thing to do. I like to do it. Even when we are honoring prasada with devotees and hearing them, talking to them while we are not chewing or something, even in that, we are still, the moment you are putting the prasad in your mouth and chewing it, you are still very conscious that what I am now eating. I am now honoring prasad. And this is like, even materially speaking, this is very healthy because you get the benefit out of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, it's vorbei, yeah. I would conclude this is the perfection of taking prasad. Is really, we are talking, we are listening to devotees and so on, but the perfection would be that in that moment, I am actually honoring the prasad. I am putting that transcendental bite into my mouth and chewing it. Just in that second, you just remember Krishna, remember the prasada. Be attentive to it, be conscious to it, and relish it. Relish it from all your heart with all gratefulness. Enjoy it. This is the least service we can do to prasad, and if we just eat it, chew it, and enjoy it without actually having this service attitude toward it, we are not getting the same spiritual benefit. We are getting spiritual benefit unconsciously. Like when you meet somebody on the street and you tell him, here's a biscuit, and he eats it while drinking coffee, and even I think most of those who we distribute the biscuits to, they are even conscious, like, oh wow, and they appreciate it. And through this appreciation, they make spiritual advancement, not only through putting Krishna Prasad into their system, that also, but just through this appreciation and eating it consciously, they get benefit. Now imagine doing the same thing while knowing this is Krishna's Prasad, then it's more benefit. Yeah. Anything, Prabhu? Wir können auch auf Deutsch reden jetzt. Ja.
Deutsch?
Kann man machen, ja.
Okay.
Ich glaube, wir haben... Ja.
Als ich letztes Mal in Vrindavan war, habe ich einmal...
Nee, es ist nicht, oder? Aber muss man so dran halten. Ja. Ist er.
Überall. Als ich letztes Mal in Vrindavan war, hatte ich eine sehr eindrückliche Erfahrung, wo ich vormittags gelesen habe, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Und ich habe 1 Stunde gelesen und in dieser Stunde habe ich 4 Verse gelesen. Und es war keine Erläuterung dabei. Ich habe 4 Verse in 1 Stunde gelesen, weil ich habe eine ganze Stunde lang habe ich gründlich reflektiert, was dort passiert. Ich habe gelesen über Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan und ich weiß nicht mehr, welche Szene es war, aber es waren verschiedene Personen. Er hatte einen Diener, den die Devotees aus Jagannath Puri ihm gesagt haben, er soll ihn mitnehmen. Und es war ein Brahmana, der ihn begleitet hat, einfach als Diener. Und dann gab es noch einen anderen, auch Brahmana, den Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mathura getroffen hat und der ein Schüler von Madhavendra Puri war. Mhm. Und deshalb hatten sie eine besondere Beziehung. Und dann war noch ein Kshatriya, der auch sich Chaitanya Mahaprabhu angeschlossen. So hatte 3 Gefährten und es gab so eine Szene, wo sie diskutiert haben über irgendwas. Und ich habe eine ganze Stunde damit verbracht, zu reflektieren, wer diese Personen sind und wo sie herkommen und was ihre Beziehung ist, was ihr Austausch ist und was das für diese Situation jetzt bedeutet, was da noch zwischen den Worten so alles geschrieben steht im Prinzip. Mhm. Und ich habe eine ganze Stunde so verbracht, diese 4 Verse zu lesen, zu reflektieren und irgendwie habe ich diese Barmherzigkeit bekommen in diesem Moment, wo ich das so aufnehmen konnte. Ne, manchmal, wenn man das probieren würde, so zu machen, da würde ich auch einfach einschlafen. Ich könnte da nicht tief gehen, aber in dem Moment durfte ich das irgendwie. Und das hat mich sehr bereichert innerlich. Und als ich danach meine Mahlzeit genommen habe, da hat sich dieses Empfinden einfach so übertragen auf auf mein Essen und ich habe kein Bedürfnis gehabt, mit jemandem zu sprechen. Ich habe kein Bedürfnis gehabt, schnell zu essen. Ich habe einfach jeden Bissen zu mir genommen und habe das Gefühl, ich war dabei mit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu und seinen Gefährten. Und auf dieser Grundlage, konnte jetzt spontan auch denken an Prahlad Maharaj, der sagt, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So, man hört über Krishna, man spricht über Krishna, dann erinnert man sich an Krishna. Und nachdem man das qualitativ gemacht hat und dann Prasadam zu sich nimmt, dann wird das ein Teil von unserem Smaranam.
Ja.
Und das heißt, eigentlich ist nicht wichtig, was man macht, während man isst. Es ist wichtig, was man macht, bevor man isst. Und Prasadam zu sich nehmen, fühlt sich für mich, immer wenn ich gutes Bewusstsein habe und klar darüber bin, dann verstehe ich, dass Prasadam zu nehmen ist der Test. Prasadam ist der Test, wo ich sehen kann, habe ich die Zeit davor gut verbracht.
Ja.
So, das ist mir spontan eingefallen. Ich habe da nie drüber nachgedacht, aber du hast das jetzt aus mir rausgeholt. Das ist nice.
Nee, danke. Ich habe das auch nicht so, wie sagt man, systematisch aufgelistet, wie kommt man eigentlich zu dem richtigen Bewusstsein, wenn man zu sich Prasada nimmt. Und es hängt definitiv davon ab, von was man hört und wie man seinen Alltag verbringt, definitiv, ja.
Man muss da geduldig sein auch, das kommt nicht sofort. Aber es ist eine gute Sache, danach zu streben. Also meine Erfahrung ist, wenn ich 16 Runden gechantet habe, dann alles, was ich dazu mir nehme, ist okay.
Ja.
Ja, das ist jetzt vielleicht nicht die absolute Wahrheit, aber...
Aber einigermaßen stimmt auch. Aber ja. Ja, es ist eine Übung auf jeden Fall, wie man Prasada nimmt. Also ich immer noch, ehrlich gesagt. Also früher war viel schlimmer oder schneller. Habe ich wirklich sehr schnell gegessen und es ist eine Übungssache, dass man immer mehr und mehr bewusster Prasada nimmt und langsam und wirklich kaut. Aber manchmal schmeckt es so gut, dass man gar nicht kauen will und einfach schnell essen. Haribo. Das ist aber lieb. Ja.
Es gibt aber auch die 6 Goswamis. Und über Rupa Goswami heißt es manchmal, dass er zu tun hatte. Er hat gechantet, er hat geschrieben, er hat, ich weiß nicht, etwas gemacht. Er hatte viel zu tun und er war auch begeistert davon. Und dann hat er schnell ein Stück Erde gegessen, damit er keinen Hunger mehr hat. Oder Sanatan Goswami so ähnlich. Er hat Radha Madan Mohan als Deities gehabt und er hat sie auch verehren sollen. Er sollte das, also diese Deities sind zu ihm gekommen im Prinzip. Und dann, er hat die Deities bekommen, aber der Punkt war, dass er dieses Verständnis hatte, dass Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hat mir gesagt, ich muss schreiben. Und deshalb habe ich für nichts anderes Zeit. Ich muss schreiben. Und dann hat er für die Deities, er hat sein Feuer gehabt und dann hat er so Chapati-Bälle, also nur die Bälle, hat er ins Feuer geschmissen und dann waren sie außen schwarz und innen roh und das hat er zu seinen Deities geopfert. Und das hat er dann gegessen, weil er keine Zeit hatte. Das ist vielleicht nicht nachzuahmen, aber vielleicht ist das für uns sogar ein bisschen realistischer manchmal, sich so zu üben. Ne, so lieber von der Unwissenheit zur Leidenschaft als daran verzweifeln, dass ich sowieso nicht tugendhaft sein kann. So vielleicht auch zu versuchen, sehr seva-begierig zu sein, sehr begierig zu sein, viel Dienst zu machen und das Essen auch mal vergessen einfach. Ne? Oder die emotionale Involvierung damit.
Ja.
Das ist auch nice, bewusst zu essen, aber manchmal ist es auch eine gute Sache, vielleicht das so zu üben, dass man nicht zu viel darüber nachdenkt und dass man sich darauf konzentriert, ich will so viel lesen, ich will chanten, ich will Sachen tun.
Und darum ist Ekadashi da.
Dafür ist Ekadashi da. Okay, dann nur in Ekadashi so.
Mindestens Ekadashi, mindestens Ekadashi. Wir haben diese Gelegenheit. Einmal jede Woche, hey du, Haribolo. Zweimal im Monat kann man das ausüben. Wenn man unbedingt was essen muss, dann weniger essen und nicht eine Riesenmenge wie immer. Wie jeden Tag. Jeden Tag essen wir zu viel eigentlich. Oder was heißt zu viel? Mehr als was wir brauchen. Aber zumindest Ekadashi probieren wir ein bisschen weniger zu essen und ein bisschen mehr zu chanten und zu lesen. Außerdem, wenn der Koch so leckere Goranga Potato kocht oder manchmal machen unsere Köche richtig einen leckeren Feast während der Ekadashi, dann wird es schwierig, wenig zu essen. Aber ja, mein Guru Maharaj macht immer Nirjala Ekadashi. Er isst nicht am Ekadashi. Er fastet. Manchmal trinkt er Wasser, wenn es richtig heiß ist. Sonst ja, chantet er und macht seinen Service, seinen Dienst. Prabhupada hat Ekadashi immer gegessen. Ich meine, das war auch sein Dienst, den Dienst anzunehmen. Die Devotees haben für ihn gekocht, nice Prasada, und er hat es genommen. Er hat nicht Nirjala gefastet. Ja, anyway, es ist schon fast 8. Jemand noch Gedanken dazu? Dann lass uns Prasada nehmen. Oder nicht, es ist schon spät. Lass uns Milch nehmen. Shri Shri Krishna Prasad ki Jai, Shri Shri Prabhu Lakshmi Shingadev Bhagavad ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad-gītā ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Nittai Gaura Premanande Hari Bol.